Welcome. As I turn on my mic, my goodness, I started talking, my mic was on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bringing Water to Life. I am John Farner. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Everyone seems kind of down and quiet today. Why is that?
I don't think we are.
I think you are. I think everyone is kind of just down and quiet.
It is Friday.
It's Friday. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Cheer up.
I'm happy. Happy to be here on this podcast on this beautiful day.
There's a children's book out there called I forget what it's called, but it's like it has about a giant who is the loneliest giant in town, and it's about how he goes around and this little town, and he sees all these people in need. Like there is a woman who is without a house, she's with kids, so he gives the woman a shoe, and so he gives the woman a shoe, and there might be there's another animal that needs to cross a moat or something, so he would give his belt for them to cross a boat, so his pants would fall down, and every time the giant would encounter these animals, and ended up at the end like the giant was like. Had barely any clothes, but he had no friends. He's the loneliest giant in town. He had no friends.
It's really sad.
I know. So we'll get to the point. It has a happy ending. Spoiler alert, happy ending. Every time he would encounter these animals who needed help, he would say, cheer up, so-and-so. So cheer up would be a big thing. And at the end, he was without clothes. He had just his underwear on, and everybody came to his aid because he helped everybody else.
Oh.
But I'm telling you to cheer up. Cheer up. So the giant said, cheer up to the animals. We have, so Brent is literally in the room next to us in the meeting.
And he still can't make it.
And he still can't make it. Go figure. My kids are not here today.
Well, that's sad. They were great. Entertaining.
Did you listen? So we have somebody else with us. Kristin Smith-Ely, not a stranger to the podcast, right? You've been on plenty of times, a couple times before. Welcome back to beautiful Fairfax, Virginia. In Northern Virginia, in the D.C. area, has probably 10 good days of weather per year.
Oh, is that all?
Right?
Yeah, we've had a few this week finally.
So I've caught a couple.
Today is one of them.
Yeah,
it is gorgeous outside,
yeah.
And that's it. This will last for another couple of days, literally, and then it will get to 98 with 1,000% humidity. And I don't know how you get over 100% humidity, but DC seems to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
It gets hot and sticky.
It gets ridiculously humid and awful, except for the so this is probably I'm complaining now. The pollen in the air is just continues to be insane.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Is your official title editor-in-chief? Is that what you are?
That is correct.
Editor-in-chief of Irrigation and Green Industry magazine. And when you first came on the podcast, you were like brand spanking new. I mean, you barely had any time to do anything.
Yes, fresh off the boat.
You're fresh something. And now, how long have you been there?
So it'll be my fifth month.
Is that it?
Month. Actually, maybe it's sixth. I guess I started in the middle of December.
Okay, so today's
month.
May 11th. It's a Friday. Wow, I thought it was a lot longer than that.
It feels like a lot longer.
So much has happened with the magazine since then.
Yeah,
for real.
I put about a year's worth of work into it in 6 months, but
Seriously, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Wow. Well, congratulations on everything you accomplished. We'll talk about the stuff you've accomplished in a second. There's a few other things I want to talk about. And then, well, first we have the birthday game, which I know you've participated in before. And you're old hat at this now.
Yeah, Sally won last week, I think, or last podcast.
Did you listen to last week's podcast?
I missed it. I'll have to go back and listen. Is Sally's your daughter?
She's my youngest.
Okay.
She's 6 years old. And so here's the deal. Bring your daughter and son to work day was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That particular Thursday, Amy was out in California for work. And I had jury duty every Thursday. Mm-hmm. I have jury duty. It's not a surprise. Every Thursday I'm driving to Baltimore. And so our kids could not participate in Bring Your Daughter and Son to Work Day. So we promised them that the following week we would set a day to have them come to our work. And it was Wednesday was it last week?
I think it was 2 weeks ago now.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
I don't remember.
Anyway.
It was in April still, right? End of
I don't
April?
know. I asked you.
Okay.
I asked you first.
I don't know.
You're like one of my kids. I asked you first. I don't know.
A few weeks ago, we'll say.
They came. It was a Wednesday. I know it was a Wednesday. And we decided to record a podcast. And it was just me and Elizabeth. Brent was somewhere else. And one day he'll come back to the podcast.
One day.
And so they participated. And they did a pretty good job. You know, I sent the podcast, their teachers, the recording. And Sally's teacher, who she referenced throughout the podcast,
Yes, she
Mrs.
did.
Brantner, wrote back. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I love this podcast. It is the most adorable thing in the world." So it was a good recording. They talked about everything they're learning in school of plants, and about what plants give to the environment and what makes a plant grow. And it was pretty good from a kid's perspective.
Nice.
I don't know if the adults listening, the kids are not our target demographic for this podcast.
I think an adult would appreciate it.
Okay, well. Who is our target demographic for this podcast anyway? I don't even know. Have we
don't
done
have
we done studies for this
target
podcast?
demographic. No, maybe we should do that.
What is your research?
I don't.
tell you?
I don't know if
boy.
we want to waste money on research for our podcast. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get that in the budget.
We'll just tag on the Irrigation Magazine
Exactly.
studies on target demographics. All right, so let's get this over with, and then we'll move on. Today is the 11th of May. So yesterday was Bono's birthday from U2.
Really?
Yes. Happy birthday, Bono. He is like BFF with George W. Bush now.
I know. I saw that.
They were
Not
together
know that.
yesterday.
That's awesome.
Do you see that?
No, I didn't see it together yesterday, but
Yeah.
a few weeks ago I saw them.
Was it a few weeks ago? Maybe I just saw it yesterday.
It would be
Was
great
weeks
if they
ago?
could record an album
Oh,
together.
man. Well,
I think George Bush should do the cover art for U2's
I was
next
just going to
album.
say, me
Oh,
too.
there you go.
Yeah, he's
He's a painter.
the first Christmas card that I get every year is from George W. Bush.
That's
Wow,
nice that you're
how
on
do
that
you
mailing
rate?
list.
Yeah, well, I worked for the administration, so
I
we
know.
have a whole.
Oh, I didn't
alumni-
know that.
Yeah, we have a whole alumni thing. So yeah, so it's anyway. They became friends when he was president because George W. Bush was big into AIDS funding, research, and support in Africa. And it's Bono's big focus.
Oh,
and those two
Was that
kinda
the focus of the Red campaign?
yes, those two came together, and they disagree on a lot of other issues, a lot of social issues, financial, but they came together in one, and they've become pretty good friends. But anyway, yesterday was his birthday. How old is Bono?
62.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
You can say it too if you want. This isn't
Well-
a.
No, I'll go 59.
Oh, 58. She's gone one more. Yeah, 58. He's only 58. I thought he was older than that too. I would have
Yeah.
guessed in his 60s. You may not know who this person is. I know who it is. I think you do too. Shares a birth date, not year, same day, with Bono. Andy Card, former chief of staff to the president. He's the one that whispered in the president's ear on September 11th.
Oh, gosh.
In the school. You remember that?
I do remember
the still
that.
picture. Well, if you watch the video, you'll hear all the clicks of the cameras in the background. So he celebrated a birthday yesterday as well. How old is Andy Card?
Gosh, I have no clue.
You do the math. So President Bush was in office
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Is when he left.
Right. I'm going to say 48. I have no idea.
So do the math again.
There's young
Nope,
people
too
that
late. You can't-
young
no,
people
you can't
work
change
in
Andy
the White House.
Andy Card was
have no
old when he
idea.
was.
Oh,
Go
was
ahead.
he
old?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's helpful. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah. I thought he was like a younger guy. I was trying to think back to that
I
image.
guess it's not as old as John
I'm gonna
Kelly
go. I'm
was.
gonna go 68.
He's 71.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got to go back and look at that photo from
Yeah.
2001. I have no
Sometime
idea.
I don't know if it's a podcast story or not, but when I worked for the administration, this is a really interesting story. On I may have told this to you already, Elizabeth. Andy came and spoke with the politicals at the Commerce Department one day, and this was post September 11th. This is probably 2004, around there, maybe 2005. I think he was still chief in 2005. It was 2004, around that time frame. Spoke to us and told us a story of that day from his perspective and exactly what he said in the president's ear. And it's pretty amazing. So, anyway.
Well, he had a full head of hair. That's probably why I didn't think he was that old.
Just Google,
And the photo.
Google.
I had to look at a photo of that photo from the school.
I think he still has a full head of hair. We had this birthday last year because, you weren't here, but because you were only here for 5 months. But in 2 days, so the 13th of May, is former congressman and current governor of Ohio, John Kasich's birthday.
Did we do him last year?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I lived in Ohio for the last
I
10
know.
years.
That's why I thought. That's why I
should.
thought you would. Yeah.
I should remember
wanna go
this
first,
then
or-
if we did it last year, and I don't remember. I'm gonna say he's 61.
I'm stumped. I think you're probably right around the right age there, so I'm gonna guess 60.
He looks younger than what he is. He's 66.
Okay.
Really?
He's always looked younger than what he
Yeah.
is.
I'm horrible at this. I always think about my mom's age, and then I'm like, okay, is she older?
Yeah,
And
I don't
I thought she was older than him for some reason. But I guess she's.
I don't know how I would be.
And it's like, even though they're not in the room, like, you
this.
always feel like if you meet somebody on the street and they're like, oh, how old do I look? And you always want to guess younger because you
I
don't want
know.
to
Right.
insult them. So maybe
And,
that's part of it.
You know, I met John Kasich when he was a congressman back in 1995, 96 time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah, it's around that same time. And I still think of him being that person, that age. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough to age if you haven't seen him for a while.
Kind of like when you watch an old rerun from the 90s and then you see them today, you're like,
We had
wait a minute.
we had a whole conversation with my kids about the Roseanne show yesterday,
uh-huh.
and about how it was on from 88 to 2000 and. Is there candy going outside?
Popcorn.
Oh, how was it on from 88 to like 96 time frame, 97 time frame, and about how the kids got older. And Jack's 11 years old. I was like, Jack, you know, if you're on a TV show, 10 years from now, you're 21. And I was like, oh my God, you'd be 21 10 years from now. It's crazy. So,
Wow.
yeah. All right. Before we get into any updates from you,
Yeah.
Kristin, I'm pointing to Kristin. I want to clarify some of my previous comments on the Farm Bill.
Go ahead, John.
I think this is appropriate.
I can't remember exactly what we said on the last
Yeah,
one.
so I want to clarify some things. So I misspoke earlier when I said that, if I did say that the current draft of the Farm Bill eliminates the requirement for producers to prove savings of water. Okay, that is not the case. They've expanded the authorities of who can have contracts with the federal government to have irrigation conservation programs on farms, you know, in this Farm Bill.
Mm-hmm.
However, that requirement still exists. However, each bill, when it goes through Congress, it has what's called report language. And report language is basically instructions. It's like an instruction manual for the overseeing agency to implement the legislation. So when a bill passes Congress, it's written in legislative text. That legislative text needs to be translated to code and then implemented a certain way. And we all know, if I write something down and I say this, it can be interpreted
Yes.
6 ways by 6 people. So the Congress, the Oversight Committee, actually produces report language that says, okay, we said this. This is what we instruct the agency to do, you know, in implementing these programs. Now, that report language does not have the rule of law. It is basically a manual. It's like me building an IKEA piece of furniture and not following the instructions verbatim, but the piece of furniture may still exist. It might be better, it might be worse, but it's still there. In the instructions, the report language, there is language in there that says that basically encourages, I think is the word they use, the NRCS at USDA to look at more than just water savings when approving EQIP contracts for irrigation efficiency upgrades. Okay, is that a fair way to put it, Elizabeth?
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay. Did I miss anything at all?
No, I mean, I think it's just important for listeners to know, like
clarify
you're
that.
saying, it doesn't hold the rule of law, the report
Right.
language, but especially with a bill like the Farm Bill, you go through an entire implementation process.
Correct.
I mean, once this passes, groups like ours and other organizations and the USDA are going to be implementing the Farm Bill, and
Right.
whether it's through rulemaking or deciding how to work on programs and approve contracts, there's a process with that as well, and so they can use this report language as some guidance
Correct.
with how they're implementing programs.
Correct. And we, you and me, will be heavily involved in that.
Right.
With the USDA and continuing our conversations with Congress. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because it needed to be clarified. Also, there was a bill introduced in the Senate side. I promise we'll get to you in a second. Kristen. Okay. That it's the WRDA. It's the Water Resources Development Act. And the WRDA bills come through Congress, basically each Congress, right? And it's basically an infrastructure bill that funds different kind of water programs throughout the United States.
Yes. Sorry, I got popcorn
I know,
delivered to my desk.
seriously,
I'm
my
very
gosh, this is, like,
excited.
ridiculous.
I have missed Popcorn Friday far too often, and I'm very excited. I apologize.
Are you done now?
It's my favorite
Okay.
food. I
Popcorn's
can't
my
help it.
favorite food, too.
Oh, my God. Anyway, in that bill, WaterSense authorizing language exists in that bill. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Correct.
Before I go on my tangent, do you have any thoughts on that language?
So the language isn't exactly language that we probably would have wanted to be put in the bill. If we were authorizing WaterSense or putting language in a piece of legislation for it to be authorized, we probably want it to be just authorizing the program as is, not attaching this new grant program to it that is millions of dollars, because that's going to hinder any piece of legislation from going through. So those are my first thoughts. But it is good to see WaterSense still in this conversation in Congress and that people are still thinking about it.
Yes. Now, Kristen, are you familiar with WaterSense? Have you learned about WaterSense? I've talked to you about WaterSense before.
I know a little bit about it.
Voluntary program, labeling program, and right now it's pretty small, has an annual budget of about $3 million. It's teeny tiny in the grand scheme of things. And, if it was up to the president right now, it would be gone. The program would not exist. And so anyway, the WRDA bill, as you just said, you're absolutely right, Elizabeth. It includes this piece of, I don't even know what to call it, this program that has never been done before. It's a grant program for water efficiency upgrades with water providers that costs a ton of money. I don't know where this money's coming from.
No idea.
But yeah, it's just crazy. And in my opinion, I'm the same with you. Do what you do and do it well. Mm-hmm. Okay, WaterSense can barely do what it has in front of them right now, and they're doing a good job with the resources they have. But we can always do better at all of our jobs. We have more resources. We always do better at the stuff we do. Just this podcast. If I had more money for this podcast, I should take a picture of these cords that are in front of me right now. This is crazy. Look at these cords. It's crazy. We'd have all kinds of upgraded equipment. We'd sound a lot better. We'd do a lot more with the money we have. And I think with WaterSense, that's exactly what they can do. They can do a lot more with the programs they have in place. And expanding authority right away and creating a grant program, in my opinion, it's going to kind of diminish what it's set out to do on the front end. And that's really what we'd like to see. Now, with all of that said, we are strong supporters of WaterSense. We support WaterSense authorization in Congress. Mm-hmm. We are happy to see WaterSense continuing authorization language continue to be put in these bills, because it keeps the conversation going. And short of any kind of signal from the administration that they support WaterSense, this is the only way to keep WaterSense going. So, is that right? Okay.
And there's a hearing, I think, next week on the Senate bill. Mm-hmm.
Good. All right, Kristen. Irrigation Magazine. So I'm holding our May edition. So has this hit the streets yet?
In limited edition, in limited capacity.
Okay.
So
hold the mic up to your mouth. There you go.
It should
It
should be in the mail, so people should be receiving it within the next week.
I love the cover that has like the iRobot hand. Yes. I think it's the Will Smith iRobot. Is that what you thought of? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, you ever see that movie, iRobot?
I haven't, but I know about it.
You know about it?
Yeah.
You know the premise. You know what the
it's
premise
a great
is,
movie.
Right? You know what the premise, yeah. So it's a really good movie. But I like it. It has people's hands teaming up with robotics. It's good.
We were trying to come up with a concept that would kind of get the message across, a little bit more of an abstract idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good. So tell us about. I'm going to ask you some questions here. I'm going to put you on the spot because I last time I talked to you, it's especially looking forward. What are you going to do? What's the big next step?
Mm-hmm.
what is the one change you've done that you feel has the greatest impact on moving the magazine forward?
Well, I mean, I can group it into one change, and I can just say one word: design.
Yeah.
I think that's really raised our profile of a professional magazine.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, I mean, I can see just from the cover alone and kind of the layout. So, specifically, what are the for the readers out there when they get this May magazine? What would be kind of the design elements that you want to point out? I mean, there's the close up is one, right?
Yeah. So we are now really tailoring the design to the person being profiled and kind of bringing out their personality in it, versus, having just an image. It's really scheduling a photo shoot with that person and showcasing their work and what things is that person about. Really taking a close look at what their specific talents are, and then how can we show that in the design, not just in the words.
Yeah, it's because you're from the editor piece.
Yes.
It's the Kodak story, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to give a highlight of that real quick? Because the story's pretty cool. So do you want to I don't want to give anything away. Like, we want to just kind of highlight the key point of your piece here in your editorial.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the basic thing is, just not to get too comfortable in your, core business, because things can come along that can change your industry, and you need to be prepared. And, when you relate that to the landscaping industry, that could be a couple issues ago, we took a look at mowing on demand. So if you kind of are in your, kind of silo, and you're not paying attention to what other mowing companies are doing, then you're going to, get left behind. And so I likened that, as well as the adoption of, some really tech savvy landscaping companies. They're, trying out these robotic mowers, and they're turning to battery powered technologies. So if you're not paying attention to that in your business, you really should be, because those people are going to overtake you. And what happened in I'm going back to the Kodak story, is that they missed the boat. They built their whole business around printing and film, and then all of a sudden, people got these smartphones and started taking pictures on their phone, and they never printed out their photos anymore. Yeah. And not only that, then they found all these different social media sites to post them to. So that's good. So it's just kind of a lesson of you gotta.
Now you went on a little trip yesterday to one of the advertisers. What did you get to do down? Did you use a chainsaw? What did you do down there? Like some power equipment you got to get your hands on. What did you do? What'd you do down there?
Yeah, that's right. So it's got a tour of a client who manufactures equipment for the industry. And, they kind of showed us their equipment portfolio, and I think it really helps me now. I try to, use a blower that, blows leaves and debris. I got to use a chainsaw and a trimmer. So I don't know. I think, it's helpful for me, someone who's writing about the industry, who, to be able to say, okay, I use this piece of equipment and I found it easy. I'm not going to, as an editor, I'm not really going to endorse a product, but I feel like it helps me relate a little bit better to my readers that, okay, I see what this is like now.
And I see you've been cheating on us as well.
Gosh.
I know my beard does not compare at all to this guy's beard. So you were on Things Green. Is it a radio show? What is that?
It is a syndicated radio show that airs on public radio across the country.
Looks like it's on KLCS in Los Angeles. It's a PBS station.
Yes. So this gentleman has his own radio studio that's kind of dedicated to really providing tips for gardeners in their own homes. And he himself is an experienced landscape contractor.
Okay.
So he really knows his stuff.
It's quite the beard, too.
And I did an article on him in our April issue.
Yeah, I read that one.
Oh, is that right?
That was the featured
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, he
right?
was the close-up profile
yeah,
for
it
the
was really
April
nice. Very
issue.
good.
Yeah,
Very
talked
good.
about his beard.
Very
Oh, really?
very fascinating
Yeah.
It
person.
shows you how much I read IGN apparently.
But
Sorry about that.
took his experience for landscaping and his, larger than life personality and was like, hey, maybe I can marry the two together and do something for the industry. And I think he's really accomplished that.
Very cool.
He's got his own niche.
It's a niche. What now? So, what's the one thing that you found most fascinating about entering into this landscape, irrigation, water, magazine? Like, because you read all these, you read everything, right? So,
Yes.
what do you find? What have you learned that's kind of the most interesting thing about this industry?
Well, I will say I did not realize the impact on the environment that the industry has. So I came from a background of writing about recycling and waste, which, is very in your face, like it's very obvious the impact that has on the environment. And I didn't really think so much about until I took this job about the, implications of something like planting a native species in your yard versus something that's going to require a lot more water, or just, making sure you have a smart controller for your irrigation system that knows when you need to water your lawn and doesn't overwater your lawn, and just what an impact something like that can have on the environment. So it really is a very environmental industry. It's not just about making things look pretty. There's so much more to it.
I agree with that completely. And so this May magazine that I'm holding right now, that's just about to hit the
the digital edition is available on the website.
So we'll get to the website in a second. What is one thing people should take a look at here in this new magazine? Like one thing, just like, you got to check this out. Don't miss this.
Yeah, well, I would say that actually, I'm going to have to say two.
You didn't say two. That's okay. There's no real rules here, as Elizabeth knows. She doesn't listen to me anyway, so whatever.
Sad face.
So I would say the cover story is really interesting because it takes a really good look at where the industry is headed and how it's progressing towards new technologies. So I wouldn't say it's running.
Yeah.
I would say it's just kind of like slowly adopting.
And it says, teaming up with technology, more and more landscapers are embracing new technologies such as battery power and are using them to their advantage. So that's great. Yeah. So what else? What's the second one you want?
So the other one, and it's interesting, we did send out our digital edition e-blast yesterday, so I got a chance to see what stories people clicked on most. I love, looking at that kind of stuff.
I love analytics and metrics, as Elizabeth knows.
And the story that I think is very interesting right now, it's going on, is just legalized marijuana. And
yeah.
I saw you guys.
So did
wrote
you
about
interview Jeff Sessions about that at all, or no?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
In fact, our senior editor Mary Villano wrote this story, and
did you have to test any of the products while you were involved in this?
Again, I wasn't really involved.
I'm sorry. I'll let you speak.
Let her finish.
Let me turn off my microphone.
Let her finish.
Okay. My microphone's turned off. Go ahead.
So I think it's really a really interesting thing because landscape contractors, I don't think it's any secret, they have a hard time finding employees sometimes. So then you have this now legal pot issue, and so it's like, well, do you test your employee for this? I mean, it's legal, and if you do, what are the implications of that? And if you're already having a hard time finding a qualified worker, does this further, increase your difficulty?
I see. So it's taking it from the employer's perspective.
Correct.
I gotcha. Yeah, because it might be legalized in some states, but it's still illegal at the federal level too.
Yeah, and do you want, to, I guess, put your worker at risk? I mean, if he is under the influence of that and he's operating a piece of equipment.
Outdoor equipment, yeah.
So there's a lot to it.
God, that is interesting. I know that we view it from a different perspective in agriculture, and that is, what do companies do when you have a grower come to a company, a farmer come to a company? It's say a dealership, an agriculture, not a dispensary, an agricultural dealership. Yeah. And they say, hey, I want to buy some equipment, and they says, okay, well, talk about irrigation, and there's like we want to be as efficient as possible, so we want to know what your soil type is, what in addition to what crop you're growing, and they'll say marijuana. It's like, okay, and say this is in Colorado, where it's legal. However, in order to get financing, if a bank is insured by the FDIC,
Right.
you got to be very careful about financing this operation because the feds can come after you at that point because it is still illegal to produce and smoke and use marijuana in the United States. So it's actually, from that perspective, it's very complex.
I've heard I've heard a lot of stories of people in the business. They deal in cash a lot.
Yeah.
And even they pay their taxes. They drive.
Well, now
their cash to the state,
Bitcoin and all the online currencies are pretty big in those industries.
So
really,
this is going to be very silly.
Wow.
But this is a silly podcast sometimes.
Is it really?
Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
He wore a T-shirt over when he met with Kim Jong-un. You know what I'm talking about? The story?
I don't know the T-shirt. I don't remember.
I'm going to look it up real quick. You can talk about something else real quick. Go ahead.
What? I mean, we don't really want to change the topic from marijuana.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I think the industry term really is cannabis.
It is, yeah. Well, for
cannabis, so
it's funny actually. A girl I knew in high school, she's like creates cannabis oils now, and it's so confusing to me because in New York City, I think cannabis is still illegal. Like in DC, you can grow it and stuff.
Here it is.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. But she creates cannabis oil and she uses it and shows pictures on Instagram, and I just get very confused. I'm like, so is it legal? Like, I don't understand at all. Like, other people are being arrested in New York City still, but she's has her whole business based on cannabis. It's all very confusing to me.
Dennis Rodman, when he went to North Carolina, when he went to North Korea. Kim Jong-un, this was back in 2013, maybe? No.
Oh.
It was 2017. Oh. Trump was president.
He went again.
Yes, 2017, because Trump was president. He brought Kim Jong-un all the copies of Trump's books, like Art of the Deal and all those, and he wore this T-shirt called potcoin.com, and is a cryptocurrency for cannabis.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what made me think of that because I knew that. Yeah,
I have not heard of that.
It's a cryptocurrency dedicated to the cannabis industry. So, man, this podcast took a left turn real fast, didn't it? What happened? Oh, about IGI. It's about Irrigation magazine writing about marijuana. That's what.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
But check it out. Check the article out.
Yeah,
sure
really.
It's good.
Yeah, and your website. You recently revamped your website, reintroduced it.
That's correct.
What is the website's name? The URL.
IGIN.com.
IGIN.com. So check out the new website. And if you're interested in getting the e-newsletter, there's a way to sign up for the e-newsletter right there.
Just click the subscription button. You can't miss it.
Look at that. Wow.
Easy.
Easy. That is easy. Well, I'm out all next week. So I don't know if we'll have a podcast next week unless you want to have one. You can be more than happy to do one.
That's okay.
That's okay. So maybe we'll get back together the following week.
Sounds good.
You head back home today.
I do.
Have a safe flight home.
Thank you.
I am heading out to Nebraska and then London, England. I'll be out there for the royal wedding. So
enjoy.
You got invited?
I'm not going to the royal wedding. Yeah, me and Meghan Markle are like BFFs from way back in the... No. I will be out there at the same time as the royal wedding. So I'll be sure to take as many pictures as possible.
Please do.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Kristin. Spring More Life.
Thank you.